Hello, Steve White, Tripway 89 for Steve Arts 89, Star Trek's Alleged Gatekeeper. Okay, so I had a bit of a choice to make tonight. Do I watch The Orville first or Strange New Worlds first? I thought I would go with Strange New Worlds simply because it was shorter, and I was hoping to get the review up by 12, by midnight, so it would be yesterday. But unfortunately, the file failed on me, so here I am doing it again. So this episode was Star Trek Strange New Worlds' attempt at humour and comedy, and I'm not sure it succeeded. It was very uneven. There was some really great character moments, and Ethan Peck had some great delivery of some lines. And there were some fun scenes with Una and Ortega. Noonien Singh. But just the tone between the scenes with T'Pring and Spock was so flat and drawn out and long just because of the Vulcan nature and the dialogue and the way it was written. And then the other scenes, it never really hit for me, never really worked. Now we sort of have three sort of stories. We have the main story would be Spock and T'Pring. Now T'Pring feels Spock doesn't take the relationship seriously, he just sees it as a duty. She shows up for dinner and he gets stuck in negotiations, and she basically waits just long enough to walk out on him because she doesn't feel he's serious. He's very upset about this. He's eating dinner alone, and Chapel, who is apparently has, even though she was married and went into Starfleet to find her husband who'd gone missing, I think that's already happened, she has a real commitment phobia, and she's supposed to be on a date with some guy that she just wants to hook up with, but he wants to talk about them, and she literally just walks off in the middle of a sentence that he's speaking to go talk to Spock, who she senses is upset. And they have a talk, and she basically calls him an idiot for not knowing how to handle a female. He tells her all about he's being raised as a Vulcan and so forth, and it's a nice exchange. And then Chapel goes off with Ortega, and they basically go onto the areas of the starbase, because they've doctored a starbase to repair after all the shenanigans in the last couple of episodes. And they've got these big areas that have forests and everything. I've got like biodomes. So they just go and they're just like hanging out by a lake and stuff. And that's it. That's basically shore leave for a lot of the crew. And that's when the Una and Noonien Singh story starts, because they find out that number one has a nickname from the cadets, that she's basically considered like a joy kill, a buzzkill. And she's not happy with that, and her Vulcan eyebrows seem quite frustrated the whole episode. But they catch two cadets doing something in an airlock, which was a security issue, and they find out about Enterprise Bingo. And they find out Enterprise Bingo is basically you have a whole bunch of tasks you have to perform as an ensign, and they, for the fun of it, decide to go and try and do all the tasks on the list. They're all random weird things, and some of this play between them is kind of funny. It's supposed to be light and comedic. Some of it hits. Rebecca Romaine is great as an actress. Noonien Singh actually showed a little bit of humanity, because she's just been so cold and fake, hard. She seemed really fake. I thought, this girl can't act. But she did a much better job. They showed sort of the softer side of her. Not that it was particularly soft, but the softer side of her. And she did pull it off. So she may actually be able to act. She may have just been acting cold and distant rather than not being able to actually... It's a thing. So what's next? Oh, the negotiations, of course. They're negotiating with this race who are very difficult. They've fought with the who are the pig-faced aliens? I can't remember the name. I always want to say troglodytes. Oh, damn it. I hate forgetting Star Trek stuff. Okay, well, that fails, and they want to negotiate with Pike, but then they're not impressed with Pike. They're impressed with Spock, so they don't want to negotiate with Spock. Unfortunately, what I guess is supposed to be the main story for the episode happens just before this, where in order to get closer to T'Pring, him and Spock, they mind meld in some way as some sort of ceremonial couple thing, and they accidentally swap Kartras. Now, had they mentioned the Kartra when this first happened, it would have made more sense, but it just seemed like a really, really cheap conceit. Like, we just want to do this for the episode because it's very early in the episode, and it just really didn't work. I'm just like, really? They swapped minds just like that? Like, what is this? And I'm like, oh, Kartras. Okay. They didn't explain it until later, and it seemed just really implausible at first. It just wasn't working. But some of Ethan Peck's lines were really good as T'Pring, and they did play the characters fairly well. But like I said, the Vulcan scenes, the Vulcan dialogue, it was all very awkward and slow and drawn out. But eventually they basically have to do each other's jobs. Now, at first I thought they weren't going to tell anyone. They were going to try and do this secretly and try and base all the comedy in that. But within about a minute, they told Pike about the problem because they had to negotiate with this alien race. And obviously, if they don't get them on their side, they could go after the Klingons or the Romulans, and it's a serious thing. And T'Pring did an okay job of negotiating as Spock, but she didn't really understand Spock and why he was interested in the Federation. And she was sort of trashing Spock. And Pike stood up for him and basically explained to her who he is and who they see him as the perfect example of the best of the Federation. And this impresses the aliens because what they really wanted was some empathy. They wanted the negotiators to understand their point of view and see their point of view first or completely. And eventually when Pike comes back to negotiate, he basically tells them what they're thinking and what they're thinking about joining the Federation and all the issues with it. And that impresses him. He walks off, and they do actually decide to join the Federation. And how we see that is while Una and Noonien Singh are fulfilling one of the last tasks, which is to go out on the deck of the Enterprise, the hull of the Enterprise, and sign the last original hull plate from the ship that hasn't been replaced. It's got a big scorch on it. And they're walking just in what appears to be open space because they've got a force field that allows them to walk all the way down to the very edge of the hull, much like the scene in Star Trek The Motion Picture. They sign the hull plate, and then they see this ship because the aliens brought a solar ship with solar sails because it's supposed to be a sign of celebration. So if they join the Federation, they would raise the sails and raise the Federation flag, which they did, and then this ship just flies over the hull of the ship while Una and Noonien watch it, and it's quite a nice scene. The hull seems really chunky, like Star Wars model chunky, not smooth like it's supposed to look and Starfleet ships look, and would make sense. You don't want the surface of a ship to have all those issues with aerodynamics and everything, and so effects-wise, there are some issues, but probably the best part of the whole episode was seeing the Enterprise outside the windows of the office, whatever, what would you call it, where they're negotiating, and that was nice. That was the best part. Yeah, just looking at the Enterprise through the windows, that was kind of the best part while they were doing negotiations. The scenes with Una and that were kind of fun. The scenes with Spock and that were really flat. You did kind of believe them, but they were very Vulcan, and just Vulcans, they're very difficult to deal with dialogue and how they behave. And in a comedy episode, like I said, I laughed out loud a couple of times. There are some good deliveries. There's a moment where Spock punches out a guy, because T'Pring apparently hunts down or negotiates with Vulcan criminals to try and get them into rehabilitation. And Spock loses his temper with this guy, and he's disrespecting humans and disrespecting T'Pring, and he just punches him out. And it doesn't seem very Spock-like. Spock seems very un-Spock-like in these episodes, and it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. My only way of rationalising it is that having tried to be Vulcan for so long, when he joined the Federation, he was embracing more his human side. And what we see in the original series is him sort of finding a balance, or trying to find a balance, which he eventually achieves acceptance of himself in the movies and, in Spock's later life. But Yeah, it was an uneven episode. It had some good moments. It had some fun moments. I did like parts of it, but I'm kind of glad I watched this first because I think the Orville is going to blow it out of the water. It's an hour and 9 minutes. It's probably going to play like a movie, and I don't imagine it's going to be this difficult because they were trying to go for like an Orville vibe and comedy, and it just didn't really hit, mostly because of the Vulcan scenes. Had they just had normal events and not had to bring there and had it just been people on shore leave and just a lighthearted episode, it might have worked, but trying to put the two together, it didn't really work. The scene at first where he's having a nightmare fighting himself on Vulcan did look beautiful though. And the Enterprise outside the windows looked beautiful in the conference room. But yeah, the humour didn't really totally hit as a whole episode. The little moments did, but yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. Thanks. Bye.